Hello there, folks. Hope everybody's doing okay. Just one of those flipping random occasions again where I just felt really prompted to jump on and share a few thoughts and feelings for whatever reason. It's a significant, poignant day for me today, and well, and my family. Obviously, it's 9 years to the day that we lost my father, the legend that was MD Martin Davis. And yeah, obviously miss him every day, but it's, significant days like these, you tend to think a little bit more and reminisce and contemplate, don't you? And I never really made that much of a point to come into the graveside. He always used to say that if you want to come up to a cold and wet Brynethel hillside to chat to me, then knock yourselves out. But I won't be there, and I've always had that sort of a mindset about it already, that I can talk to him anytime. So I've never really felt a burning need and desire to come up. But yeah, I thought I'd come up today. Mum couldn't make it up here today, but it's flipping grim. So I was going to do this I was just thinking about doing a video, and but I can't do it outside in this weather, obviously. But yeah, just got me thinking, and it's funny, just as I was there then, just as you do, you think back to the day itself and the funeral, and I suppose again it's all faith related stuff that I seem to be thinking and sharing just recently, and I'm not going to make any apology for that, because I can remember just thinking to myself how, I'm an only child, and me and my dad were super close. He was my best friend. Loved him dearly, respected him so much, and it was precious actually, because just before he died, I managed to have a sort of a meet up and a heart to heart with him. And people don't often get this opportunity, in life. That we lose people, and sometimes it's unexpected. But I was able to have a sit down chat with him and tell him how much I loved him, and tell him how much I respected him for being such a great dad and a great example to me. But also we managed to, I knew my dad had a real strong faith, and so we had a conversation along those lines, and I knew he was all good. I knew he was all good with the Lord, and because I knew that I was going to have to, like I said, I'm an only child. I was going to, and because of, done a little bit of speaking and preaching, that kind of thing, I knew that he would want me to speak. But not only would he want me to speak, right? My dad, anybody knew him, he was a flipping character. He was a boy and half my father. Real popular, likable, lovable fella, and really cheeky chappy. And I knew that he would have wanted me to make people giggle, and that's a tough gig, isn't it? That's your father. You're trying to go in there to be strong, and it's a difficult day in general, isn't it? And I can remember thinking on the funeral day about, like, how on earth could I have managed to hold myself together on a day like that if I didn't have my faith? I just can't contemplate it. I haven't always been a Christian, as most of you would know, but it occurred to me, like, how would I have managed that? How do people manage that? And yeah, like I said, I'd like to think that I managed to make people giggle and to have a bit of a laugh, and such a tough day. But what I've been thinking about more than anything now in this last sort of half hour since I've been up here was the experience I had at the graveside, because as is often and is obviously mostly the case, you've got your close friends and family there, and not only people that I know and love, but the people that my dad knew and loved dearly, and it was beautiful. It was a gorgeous sunny day, and it's mad, isn't it? I can remember it was like the time when he'd been lowered into the ground and everything, and there was a bit of a poignant pause where, you know, everybody was silent and just being very, very respectful. And the maddest of things, right? It's like my phone in my pocket, the Siri started, you know, just as everybody was silent and contemplating and being like, you know, like I said, dead respectful and stuff. And my Siri, my phone went off in my pocket, you know, and yeah, it was quite, it really sort of lightened the mood. And my dad would have loved it, you know. And you know, I think I come up with something silly like, yeah, all right, Dad, you've always got to have the last word or something, and everybody had to giggle about it, obviously. But it's mad, isn't it? That only ever happened then. Again, my Siri had never gone off like that, just randomly. And a couple of weeks after my dad's funeral, I was chatting to the girl I was with at the time, and we were talking about Dad, and it happened again. Never happened from that day to this since. But yeah, it's quite beautiful. But you know, there were so many mixed emotions at that graveside. But one of the things from a faith perspective I can remember feeling is that I felt so incredibly lucky, you know, because for so many years of my life I would go to funerals, you know, and a lot of us do, don't we? We go along and we not go through the motions, but it's painful and it's difficult and it's the finality of it all, isn't it? And, you know, I suppose I always used to look like so many people do that don't have a faith, and they look at that hole in the ground as a complete and utter full stop, or even an exclamation mark. You know, it's quite frightening looking into that, isn't it? But for me personally, when my faith is that hole in the ground is a comma. It's not a full stop. It's just a comma. It's that stepping stone into the next life. You know, I don't fear it in many ways. I look forward to it in a weird kind of a way, you know. And I know my dad had no fear of death either. And when we had that conversation, he was all good. I could see it in his eyes. He was ready to go. He'd had a good life, but you know, and like I said, I know that of course it's painful. It's painful for all of us when we lose somebody. But I know, for me personally, that it's like my father's he's gone to be with the Lord. He's gone to be with Jesus. He's gone to heaven, obviously. But he's like, that's a room that I don't have access to at the moment. But I know that room exists, and I know that he's there. I know that we're going to be reunited, you know, and that's so precious, you know. It's just, I don't think it's biblical actually, but it's often referred to as the blessed assurance. And I can just remember feeling that day, it's very, very difficult to explain, right? But I was sad because there were so many people around that graveside that I love dearly, that I, you know, take a bullet for. Some of my family, some of the friends that I love dearly. And at that time, I can remember, yet again, I'd sort of strayed a little bit, as I have done in my Christian walk, and I wasn't going to church, you know. And it's madness though, because daily for so many years, even with times when maybe I'd lost my way a little bit and I wasn't attending church, I was still listening or reading my Bible daily, you know. And I think in many ways over the years, it's crazy because I've always had this desire to tell people about God, tell people about Jesus ever since I got saved, you know, ever since I became a Christian. It was like nobody had to tell me to go and do that. That's all I wanted to do because it's exciting. You know, this is the trouble. So many people's understanding of Christianity and faith is a complete misunderstanding. I was exactly the same for so many years. And but I can remember feeling just a general, I suppose, sadness with regards to some people surrounding that graveside, because I'd never had a chance to tell them about, or never taken chance to tell them about my faith. And I guess it is like, I suppose I felt it's like a selfishness, you know. And I was aware, and I've been aware, you know, doubly so just recently in this last couple of months, particularly the things I've shared with the state of the country and the state of society in general. And I suppose because I'm getting a little bit older as well, you know, it's if we look at our lives in terms of I suppose a week, then, you know, I'm 55 now, so I'm into the weekend, aren't I? You know, as a lot of us are. And, you know, these kind of events happen more and more, don't they? Attending people's funerals. I got a good friend of mine that's just lost his father now, and he's going through the pain of that the same as I was. And, you know, it breaks my heart when this stuff happens. But as we get older, like I said, it's the inevitability of life and death. And these things are going to happen. And they do happen. But I just remember feeling that probably sadness and selfishness that I had this faith that other people there that I knew and loved didn't have. And like I said, I had all this knowledge, and for many years, I think maybe in a way I've been, not that it ever impresses God, but just being very, very studious and learning more and more about my Bible and just, you know, concrete in my faith, I suppose, you know. But really clearly, just recently, God spoke to me and he said, look, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You know, and it's so true. It's like, and I've never stopped caring. I've never stopped caring, and it doesn't sit well with me that that I have this faith, and I shared it recently that I haven't tried hard enough to share my faith with people. Obviously, you've got to be respectful, and there's a famous Bible verse, and it says, "Always be ready to give an answer for the hope that is within you, but do so with gentleness and respect." And I understand that. But, you know, there's a fine line between being gentle and respectful to never telling anybody. And I can remember thinking back, it's mad, isn't it? Because there was a lot of my family that are Christians. There's a lot of Christianity on my dad's side of the family. And there was a lot of them there around and about that graveside. And, you know, thankfully the penny dropped for me through one of my family members, you know, and it's all God's timing. So it's not like I'm criticizing any of them. But for so many years, you know, I was interacting and obviously spending loads of time with my family who I love dearly, but none of them ever told me about Jesus, you know what I mean? And like I say, it's not a criticism. It's not, because that's happened to me with so many of my friends going forward in my life. So, you know, this stuff is complicated and it's simple, but we need to try harder, and I need to try harder. But it was mad because all of that day, I don't think I'd shed a tear, or, you know, maybe a couple of tears in the service in church, but I had to be there. I had to be strong for the kids, for my mum, you know, and so I held it together pretty well. And there was a lovely lady, Alwyn Clatworthy. She's the pastor of, I think it's Bethany Church down Arrow Street, and that's where we had my dad's funeral service. And you know, just as everything had finished off, and I'd obviously spoken in the church, and she knew that I had a faith, and, you know, we chatted a little bit about that in the run up to the funeral. And as we walked away from the graveside, everything had finished. She said, "Oh, Steve, can I have a word with you?" And I thought it was just like, where do you want the family car, or some practicalities of the day, because obviously I was doing a lot of the organising. And I said, yeah, what's that, you know? And she said, I just feel that I got a word from the Lord for you. And I said, yeah, what's that? And she said, "I know you've got a faith, Steve, and I know you're not exactly where you should be." But she said, "I just feel that God and Jesus is saying that you need to come home." Flipping wrecked me. It absolutely wrecked me. And it's important to understand again, right, is that it didn't wreck me because I felt so guilty. Like I said, I was. God must have known what was on my heart, because I was surrounded by all those people that I loved, and I felt so thankful for my own faith, thankful that I was going to see my dad again. But, you know, there was a mixture of emotions that I've just shared, and for her to say that at that time, it was just so powerful. So powerful, and I've never forgotten it. It was so powerful and so impacted me. I was crying, I was blubbing. You know, the first time that whole day that I got really, really emotional. You know, but it's mad, you know, you might be forgiven for thinking, and this is where people, they don't understand the character of Jesus. Obviously I do. And even though I've been so stupid, I've been sometimes in my life, you know, even as a Christian, I've been faithless, but he's always remained faithful. And it was like, I didn't feel any, it was just exactly like my father, right? You know, many a times in my life, I respected my dad so much, and me and my mother used to lock horns quite a bit, you know. My dad was always in the background. My mum was a disciplinarian, but because I respected my dad so much, he'd only have to, he would only ever have to look at me. And, you know, just that feeling that I might have been disappointing him because I knew he had so much love for me. And that's exactly how I felt when she gave me that word from God. It was I felt his love. I felt his love and his compassion, and just, you need to come home, you know. And so many people that misunderstand the character of God, and it breaks my heart because he's all love. God is love. It doesn't say that he does love or every, you know, it says that God is love, and he loves you dearly, you know. And this is the thing, people get it so mixed up, and people's understanding of Christianity is a total misunderstanding, just like I did for so many years, you know. But you need to understand what happened on the cross was the greatest demonstration of love there's ever been. It's often referred to as the self-substitution of God. He took our place, you know, and he took my place, he took your place. And it's so important. When he died on the cross, that was the greatest expression of love in history. And he didn't die with a pointed finger, pointing out all your wrongs and all my wrongs. He died with outstretched arms, yeah, beckoning us to come to him. He didn't come to rub it in, all the wrongs that you've ever done. He came to rub it out. That's exactly what he did on that cross, you know. He came to pay the price for you and I so that we can find our way to him. And thank the Lord I found my way to him all those years ago. But, oh man, I didn't intend to say half of this, and it's gone on way too long. I always do this when I start banging my gums. But, oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share. I hope it hasn't been too flipping heavy. Didn't intend it to be. But yeah, it's that's really poignant. You know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And there's some people that are going to be hopefully listening to this, and just in general, some people are going to think I'm crap crazy. And listen, I understand that completely, because I would have thought exactly the same years ago. I won't take that personally, and you know, but just if there's some people that end up watching this, which there will be, that I know and love, then I hope it means something and says something to you. And you know, like I said, it's just trying to just help us all concentrate on the most important things in life, because we don't, do we? You know, we're so distracted by life. There's so many things that are pulling us in all sorts of different directions. But just don't take your eyes off what's most important, folks, you know. And just, yeah, look after all those nearest and dearest, and look after yourselves, all right? And catch up with you soon, God willing. Okay, God bless.